Hi everyone, we're gonna have to restart this podcast. We got some technical difficulties. New stream starting right away. Or maybe not, as lagging quite a bit right now. But it looks like things have sorted themselves out. So here we are, episode 11, season 3 of the Buffaloes podcast here on G Show Productions on gshow.ca. Thank you so much for tuning into this one if you are. We are brought to you by goaltenders, elite prospects, movement, fitness, and performance, Can Central Sports Cards and memorabilia, as well as Terrico. Only one guest in today's episode. That's going to be Gordie Tumilson, as he'll be joining the show next with me to talk about the past weekend of games for the teams in the academy. We also dive into some marketing stuff as well. And then, yeah, we're going to get into the upcoming weekend slash week of games for all four teams in the academy once Gordie departs this edition of the show. But I want to start off with some very big news from Pilot Mound's U15s. As congratulations to the U15 Prep Buffaloes, who went down to the 2025 Hockey Hounds tournament and became champions. And not only did they become champions, but many members from Pilot Mound were recognized for individual awards. Leading scorer and tournament MVP was named Brock Vauden. Best coach to Colin Fafara. First team goaltender Kobe Parker. First team defenseman Josh Now. As well as, or that might actually be pronounced Josh No. But first team forward, Nash Ramage and Max Faulkner both being named to that team. Congratulations to this select group of U15 Prep Buffaloes and to the whole Pilot Mound Hockey Academy U15 Prep squad on making Pilot Mound proud. And yeah, it was quite the dominating weekend for this U15 prep group too. Me and Gordie Tumilson get into that next on this edition of the Buffaloes podcast, season 3, episode 11. Gordie Tumilson joining this edition of the Buffaloes podcast. Gordie, we've been talking about him quite positively for the, past few weeks now, and we'll continue to do so here. The U15s coming away with a heck of a performance with their tournament down in Medicine Hat, Alberta. Big time wins. Brock Vauden got, recognized as tournament MVP. Colin Fafara is the top coach, and the Buffaloes being very recognized throughout their dominant performance this past weekend. What a weekend it was for them, eh?
Absolutely. Top coach, top player, guys on the All-Star team, whatever that is, and whatever that means to that tournament and that event. Good for our guys to beat the winners, of the champions of the event, and obviously to impress people. I think that's really important. That they've impressed people not only by winning games, but there's not any negativity around those games. We're not a dirty team. We're not a mouthy team, all of those kinds of things. And I check into that stuff, afterwards because it's nice to know that people think we're who we really are, a small town community team, group of teams that have respect and know how to treat people and do the right things in hotels and in restaurants. So I'm building a bigger picture for the folks out there in TV land. Not only is our team good on the ice, and they have been, this has been an amazing first couple of months for our guys for the most part. But it's also the fact that they represent hockey, they represent Pilot Mound in Manitoba really, really well out there in the real world. And so thank you for that to our team and our players and our coaches for being good citizens and good hockey players.
And of course, the results quite strong for this team. We'll get more into the off ice aspect in a moment here, Gordie, of this group. But to see them not only put up the offense, but to put up the defense as well against this type of competition, what do you feel like that speaks about to this program and just the CSSHL in general? I think we spoke a bit about it last week, but just in terms of getting to prove themselves against other leagues, other competition.
Yeah, I mean, playing against other AAA programs and the AAA programs are great, and there's no one here going to suggest not. Sometimes they think they're better than we are, and that's okay too. And it's nice to see the academy program, our academy program in particular, win out and show them that, hey, maybe you guys need to start to consider doing something different than what you're doing at your AAA thing, if you can afford it. And that's always the big issue. Does a kid want to go away when he's 14 years old or 13 to another place? Do we have the money to do that? I mean, there's a lot of things going on by way of hockey and education and growing up and maturing. My gosh, there isn't a better place in Western Canada than Pilot Mount Hockey Academy. I can assure you of that. People are treated with respect. They know how they take their hats off when they eat in a restaurant and in the dorms. They're respectful of other people and other settings and all that stuff. So it shows the folks out there, and hopefully the teams they're playing against and other people watching get a message that, hey, this is a pretty good program. And we like what we see when we see them everywhere in town. The Medicine Hat's not a huge place. It's big, but it's not that huge. And so our bus is around, we got our name on the side, and the kids are in and out of hotels and restaurants all the time. So, good on us to perform well on the ice and off the ice as well.
Yeah, and just running through a few of the scores, I guess all the scores. 8-3 victory over Martinsville, 14-3 victory over the Notre Dame Hounds, 8-2 over Fort Saskatchewan, 7-0 over the Southeast Tigers, and 9-2 in that final game against the SSAC Lions. Gordie, in terms of, I guess, the view from off the ice in terms of the scouts, the people that were getting a chance to see this Pilot Mountain team in action, not only for them to put up those results so they feel good for themselves, but we talk about it all the time. The individual performances can go a long way in terms of getting noticed by the scouts, and I feel like a few of these players this past weekend definitely did put scouts on notice.
Well, you're right. I mean, and the obvious guys are the Brock Bodens of the world. Last year we had 3, 4 guys in the top scoring and all that good stuff. The scoring guys are always noticeable because they're scoring guys. I mean, they're at the start of the shot. The puck goes in the net. Thank you very much. Nice pass. But there's other guys doing other things. And when we play well defensively and we play well as a team, forecheck, and everybody's responsible, the other kids get noticed, and the other kids are the ones that the scouts are they all want the big top scoring guys. I mean, well, they want to draft the best guys, but it's those other guys, the third, fourth, and fifth, and sixth, and 10th rounders that are the surprise guys in most organizations out there. These are the Western Hockey League or the Junior A teams or whatever they are. They're the guys that create the foundation of stability for the organization. You're going to have stars. You're going to have those kind of guys. Your goalies are going to be good. Blah blah blah. But I'll tell you what, your third, fourth, fifth, and sixth defensemen, your third and fourth lines have got to be stalwart players that know how to check. Good defensive work on the weekend, not giving up a bunch of goals. Your plus minuses are good. You're respectful for your teammates in your game. My gosh, scouts love that kind of stuff. They're the guys picking it. They don't worry about who's on the score sheet so much. That's obvious. They can see who's scoring the goals. For the parents out there that worry about this stuff, don't. Your kid wants to be a 200-foot player because that's what everybody looks for is a 200-foot player. And if they can score at one end or block shots and play well defensively at the other, guess what? All those kids get to go up to the next level.
Yeah, and in Pilot Mound, of course, a great opportunity to build up that 200-foot game with the amount of time they spend on ice and the amount of games they play, etc. Going to be back in action this upcoming weekend, Gordie. This U15 team against the Notre Dame Hounds for three straight games at Blackjack Stewart Arena. As for the U17s, we spoke about them, a big weekend that was for them coming up this past week. We previewed it. They were going up against three quality teams, Gordie, and unfortunately fallen short in all of them. But great experience this weekend, wouldn't you say? Like we spoke about last week, to go up against this type of competition, to see where they're at, to measure themselves against this competition in the U17 prep programs.
Well, on the good news, for two periods in all three games, 2-2 tie. Bad news,
Oh,
we pooped out in the third period, all three games, and got beat. And that's unusual for that team, and in particular, uh, Rick McConnell and Danny Carls. I mean, those two coaches know this league backwards and know what's expected. And if the players don't know already by now, they certainly know after this weekend what it takes to win in the program. And so they may have been against slightly better competition, although, what I got from various people attending the games, those three games in particular, because I'm talking to, I mean, I'm not a big shot here, but I'm talking to scouts, I'm talking to people in the stands. We know people everywhere. My gosh, we should have probably won two of those three games. The
right.
middle game was the one that we got kind of 7-2, but everything else, we probably should have won both those two games, but we just quit playing or did something in the third period that prevented that. So, learning experience for sure. And I'm sure the first two practices back at home won't be easy for them. We'll have to get off that bus. They got home late last night from BC, so they'll have a day off today, I think, and then or it's to Tuesday, so they'll get back at it on Wednesday pretty heavy. So, but anyway, yeah, we lost, and we got to figure out how not to in the third period.
Yeah, this past weekend, five goals given up in that 7-2 loss in the
Yep.
third period. You look back against Coeur d'Alene Hockey Academy, they gave up four goals, even though they were able to score two in that third. And then it was the second period against Star Hockey
Yeah.
Academy where Star's able to pull through. But given what you said, Gordie, I mean, against this competition, knowing that, and I mean, like, should have, could have, would have at the end of the day, but the sense is they should have won two of the three games. Must still be pretty positive, finding that silver lining within these three losses this past weekend, knowing that fact.
Well, one thing about the podcast show that we do, Graham, we try and hit on the positive for the most part. I mean, otherwise it's dreadful to even come on here and do that. And we have some things that aren't positive, but to be good for most of the games are it's great, and be in those games is great. It's better when you stay in the games and win some of them. I mean, and that just shows character. So. I'm surprised that we lacked the character in some periods that we didn't require lacking, and so we got to get our buns together and get our heads on straight and get back to work, and maybe some successes earlier in the month created that feeling. I'm not sure. We had a weekend off here not too long ago. Maybe they haven't picked it back up. I don't know. The intensity comes, and they're kids, so the intensity is not always there. They don't always have it push the button and go. And so that may be it. But Rick and Danny will figure it out. I know the goalies were disappointed, in what happened, and they take their fair share of the blame. But they like it when they come out on top, make lots of saves, and don't give up many goals.
As I feel many goalies do. Hey, Gordy, I feel like you
Mm.
can attest to that. But only one chance for this team to try to get back in the win column this weekend coming up is they
Ooh,
have one on the schedule against
tough
Calgary
game.
International Hockey Academy at home, which is something maybe they can use to build off of some positive energy against a really good program. For the U18 male Buffaloes, taking a look at their past week of action, one game, and that came against RHA Winnipeg. They came close, but once again, falling to RHA Winnipeg, a game that, I mean, you got to be really happy with it if you're the U18s, taking it a step further and taking them to U8 to OT at the very least.
OT is a win or a loss. It almost doesn't matter. I mean, you've got to OT, and you got to OT against a pretty big and powerful program. And so good for our guys to battle all the way through. Sometimes the other teams don't take it seriously. I think they're starting to take it seriously in all the three boys programs around, particularly at RHA Winnipeg, because we're starting to beat them or take them to these kinds of things, and that's good for both programs, by the way. It's winning by 10 doesn't do anybody any good, except the guy who gets a lot of points. I guess he gets to be recognized for a lot of points, but again, scouts don't care about that. At some point, they ignore all that and go, "Hey, what are you doing the rest of the game, and who are you playing against?" Well, if you're playing against crummy teams, it's not good. So, hey, both teams forced to play as good a hockey as they possibly can. Goalies obviously played pretty well, and so good on our guys to push the opposition right through to OT and maybe even get to a shootout some of these times as they battle this RHE program at least once a month.
Yeah, they'll get them twice this month. This was
Yeah.
actually the first time they've met this season on the schedule, of course. First time in regular season as this Pilot Mountain team. They've played nothing but regular season and I guess some exhibition games along the way against Seventh
Yep.
Fire Eagles. But given that this team, as opposed to the U17s, were able to come back in this one, forcing overtime against a quality program, shows to, I feel like, the character of this team and the never quit mentality that Coach Florentino has this group playing with.
Well, this U18 squad surprised us a little bit this year. You always hope you make the steps up and you get better every year. I mean, we were brutal the first year. We're better the next year and better. Last year, still not really, there. This year, we're there. I think we're there in terms of competition every game. We're competitive every game. The no exhibition U18 Buffaloes, who know no exhibition? Wow. And they've made the best of not playing an exhibition series here and there. And so good for them to continue to move forward, and we look forward to them, constantly getting better this season, getting into their playoff round, and maybe knocking some of these big guys off along the way. That's always the fun part when you get down to the end of the season. So keep it going, guys. You're right there.
And they'll have two games coming up in, let's see, Saskatchewan and in Alberta, as
Actually, get
well as two games in Alberta coming up this
yeah.
weekend, Gordy, is it's
Yeah,
going to
they got
be
they got
a
the
fun
game
one.
in southern Saskatchewan at Barkman, and then they're against Prairie, I guess, and then they're up against Nax and OHA or somebody like that. In Edmonton and what do they call it? Devon, um,
Devon or
uh,
Devon, I'm not
Alberta. I guess it's
entirely
Devon
certain.
in Canadian.
Yeah.
Devon would be a basketball player's name.
Well, as we look ahead into next weekend, Gordy, should be, well, another exciting weekend for this U18 program.
Yeah,
As for the U18 female prep program, Gordy, weekend for them where they're able to at least come away with a goal in the matchups they went up against.
yep,
Balmoral Hall, OHA Edmonton, RHA Winnipeg. All of these games are down in Blackjack Stewart Arena. Yeah, I guess simply thoughts from another weekend of, I guess, some positives, but disappointment again on the scoreboard.
sure. There's a lot of frustration, and we're going to get that. I don't think we're going to get a lot more out of the kids that we've got. They're giving it everything they have, and good on them to continue to keep their spirits up, try very hard, try and win these games, and try and stay close in these games, get a goal or two, and work hard. And they've done some really good things. They're getting better as players. We're not seeing some of the results of that because it's a team game, and so you got to have everybody going. And sometimes if one player is not going on a line or a pairing, then we're not winning the hockey game. If the goalies have an off day, um, well, that's just we just can't handle that. So it's a bit frustrating, but you know what? Good on the girls to be spirited and they're bubbly and they still sing songs and they're different. I mean, girls, I've said this before. They can lose 10-0 and they're on the bus singing songs and trying to do whatever girls do to keep positive. So good for them. Boys would be pouting, girls are singing songs. I guess there's a big difference there.
Yeah, I know myself. I mean, as much as I'd love my teammates in a situation like this, the losses for myself as a competitor back in the day, Gordie, would start to eat away at me a bit. And I know that it's a team game at the end of the day. But what does that say about this team, this mentality that this group has? That I think it speaks to some resiliency, knowing that even though you've gotten dominated on the scoreboard many times this year, you're still able to keep that chin up and think about the positives moving forward.
Well, I think they're playing for each other, which is what the coaches preach in every sport and in every team probably. You're playing for the crest on your chest, not the name on your back, sort of a thing. And that's all kinds of good stuff. I think too that not only is it a team thing, but individual players know because they've been around and this is where it comes in handy to have girls that are coming back year to year is that they know that that every season the girls that work really hard get to go when they graduate get to go to play college hockey somewhere and move up into other kinds of good levels of hockey. So it's not just the team winning, it's the player improving. That's the other neat part about this. They get the ice time, they get the mental part of the game stuff. There's all kinds of hockey IQ things going on. There's a whole bunch of other stuff. And so besides their studies in school, which are really important, because for girls it's really just you know they don't have the numbers of opportunities to move beyond university or college hockey. There's some professional hockey leagues. We've got a new PWHL team in Vancouver. That's a neat deal. So now there's 7 teams, and hopefully Winnipeg will be in there. Edmonton, it sets up for that. I mean, I don't know if they're trying to do that, but hopefully they're. But in the meantime, they're all going to school. They're all going to try and come away with a nursing or teaching or some other more important type of degree. And so good on them to work on their skills and get better, and that just helps the team play better. So it's a win-win on that kind of side.
Yeah, there's much more that goes into just the record of these teams, right? And we've seen, I mean, that record hasn't been a reflection on the players that have came out of this program and have done some great things at the collegiate slash university levels. Gonna be exciting to see when and if this team can finally start to maybe string some wins together. They go up against North Shore next week or this weekend coming up in the Warriors, as well as playing against Bourget College Prep. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. And
Yeah,
then
Jose, yeah.
OHA Black. That's going to be the matchup for them on Sunday, Gordie, as they head on the road to play at Edge School in Calgary, Alberta. Before we started, you let me in on a few things you want to talk about marketing slash recruiting wise. Take us through that for the viewers at home.
Well, again, I think we're kind of waiting on the big announcement to be announced, and I think you're involved in all that, so I won't
Yeah.
go into all that good stuff. Looking forward to being on this show if, if we can make it that way. In the meantime, I can say I've signed up a new scout in Denmark who has locked in like he's like a missile going for his target. And he's picked up 7 or 8 really top-notch players in Denmark and a female player in Denmark who's got connections to a number of other players in that Scandinavian world out there that where there's lots of good players and they want to come and play. The neat part about this is where the marketing comes in. The, he's found out, and we found out that they're looking forward to be playing Canadian style championship hockey. Now, we teach Canadian style championship hockey, despite the fact that we don't get many championships. That's what we teach, and so, we're looking forward to getting some of that return on some of this investment we have in scouts overseas and in the States and in Canada back to us so that we've got some place. So marketing and recruiting together, we're working on some really good things and more sponsors. We've got a couple more sponsors that we're working on, all going in the right direction in terms of growing our program, et cetera, et cetera. So good on us to be doing that.
And I think it just speaks to how truly big the influence is here on this sport, right? You hear so many kids growing up and aspiring to play at that next level, and Canada and even the States, as it becomes more popular, have become those places and have been those staples for these players to go to and to become recognized. And Pilot Mound is just one of those prime examples of a place you can go to uh, be recognized and potentially take your game to that next level. And always great to be leveling up those podcasts with Gordie Tumilson. Always great to be joined by you, and can't wait to talk more Buffaloes hockey and more marketing things coming up next week.
Thanks, Graham. It's always good to be here and looking forward to the big announcement.
And Gordie Tumilson joining this edition of the Buffaloes podcast. He talked about a big announcement. We spoke about it a bit last week, kind of foreshadowing things, and that announcement won't be coming today. It should be coming tomorrow, though, as president of Pilot Mound Hockey Academy and Nicole Collins may have some very exciting news for you all come tomorrow. But check back on our Instagram as well as our website, as we'll have more news about that come tomorrow morning about what that segment may look like. But yeah, getting a chance to speak to Gordie Tumilson, always great to speak with him about all things Pilot Mound Hockey Academy, the past weekend of games for the team in Pilot Mound. We're going to get into some final news in this episode coming up after the commercial break, and then we'll end things off right here on episode 11, season 3 of the Buffaloes podcast. Can Central Sports Cards and Memorabilia offers the widest selection of sports cards and signed memorabilia in the city. For dedicated casual and new collectors, Can Central Sports Cards and Memorabilia has everything a collector could ask for. Everything we sell is stored with care, and with help from our knowledgeable team, we'll help you find exactly what you're looking for. We carry Upper Deck hockey card brands like Series 1 and 2, The Cup, Ultimate, SPA, and plenty more. So what are you waiting for? Come down to Can Central Sports Cards and Memorabilia, Winnipeg's premier sports cards and memorabilia store. Welcome back to this edition of the Buffaloes podcast here for Season 3, Episode 11. Gordie Tumilson, the only guest in this week's episode, and a very exciting week of Pilot Mound Hockey Academy content still to come. But as we dive into the schedules for the teams for this upcoming weekend, as we didn't really get into that with Gordie Tumilson, but we'll get into it right away. Just want to take a look back at beauty of a picture. Look at that view behind the Buffaloes in Thunder Bay on their trip from a few weeks back, where of course they faced off against the Thunder Bay Queens team. Despite the losses that Pilot Mound has had this year and how things have continued to have its struggles with this team, succeeding against their opponents. It's great to, look back on memories like this in a season like this in terms of the places you got to go to, and there's many more trips to come this year, and so far being able to bond together, being with each other on trips like this, that's always a big bonus. Any state of what a hockey season may look like in terms of the results and stuff like that, right? But in terms of this upcoming week of games, starts on Friday for Pilot Mound's U15s. Down at Blackjack Stewart Arena as they'll be taking on the Notre Dame Hounds 3 times in a row. Pilot Mound looking to build off of, well, their strong results as of late, coming off of a dominant tournament win down at the Hockey Hounds tournament. Now they play the CSSHL version of the Notre Dame Hounds, which, yeah, they'll have 3 shots at them this upcoming weekend. Those games can be seen on Flow Sports, on Flow Hockey. As for the U17s, they'll play a lone Saturday game back at home against a very good Calgary International Hockey Academy squad. And for Pilot Mound, maybe a bit of a wake-up call last weekend going up against some really good teams, and, you know, they had a chance to win in all those games, but let it slip away with some big outputs from the teams they went up against in the third period twice, and then, of course, in that second period in the final game of the weekend for Pilot Mountain. So looking for a better finish here this weekend, and what better way to go out and prove yourself against an elite hockey program in Calgary International Hockey Academies. That can be seen on Flow Hockey, on Flow Sports as well. Same with these games for the male U18 Prep Buffaloes, as they're back into it on the road going up against the Prairie Hockey Academy squad. They then face OHA Edmonton at Royal Glenora Club in Edmonton, Alberta, and then they finish off their weekend in Edmonton against Nax. All those games can be seen, like I said, on Flow Sports. And as for the female U18 Prep Buffs, well, back on the road again. Another weekend to make some memories, getting to see some beautiful sights, and playing some quality hockey teams as they have all season long. Bright spots for Pilot Mound, though. At least they're, you know, able to get into the goal column these past few games for themselves, looking to, of course, up the compete level even more this weekend against North Shore, Bourget College, and OHA Edmonton Black. And, you know, who knows, maybe they can use teams maybe not taking them seriously based off of their record to their advantage in Calgary, Alberta this weekend, as Flow Sports will be your home for all of those matchups. As for this edition of the Buffaloes podcast, we're pretty much at the end of it here. Thank you so much for tuning in on another Wednesday. If you did, thank you to Gordie Tumilson for being the guest and joining this edition of the Buffaloes podcast, as always, for his 11th appearance of the season so far. And a special thanks to Pilot Mound's partners and sponsors, as well as to our sponsors in Terrico, Movement Fitness and Performance Elite Prospects, Can Central Sports Cards and Memorabilia, and Terrico for sponsoring another edition of this show. As for the Buffaloes podcast, like I said, we got a special segment that's going to be coming out sometime tomorrow. Stay tuned for that. If you enjoy our coverage of Pilot Mound Hockey Academy, be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications here on our YouTube channel so you don't miss any future episodes like this one and all the others that we've done so far. As for myself, Graham the G Show Forsyth, until we see you all again tomorrow, Buffaloes fans, I've been your host, Graham the G Show Forsyth. Peacing out and waving so long, everybody. Enjoy the great weekend of hockey coming your way. Be sure to tune in to Flow Sports on Flow Hockey to support your Buffaloes if you can't make it down to the arenas they're playing in this weekend. And as always, we'll have Tyson Unruh, Juno Award winner, end us off with the March of the Buffaloes theme. Take care, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.